Hello and welcome to MIM TV. My name is Jason Pitt. Today we're talking about Liam Fox and why he's making the headlines. So he's in the national press, as you can see down here, as calling Britain's businesses lazy, more interested in playing golf on a Friday afternoon. So I want to read, if I can, a few quotes that have been in the national press. One that I particularly like, which is Innocence Drinks co-founder Mr. Reid, who campaigned to keep the UK in the EU. So what does he think of these comments? How dare he? He's a representative of us, this country, and turns around and slags us off, calling us fat and lazy. So this comment is echoed by Labour politicians, and Terry Scola from the EEF also makes a comment about these comments being unhelpful. But what I want to ask you is, did Liam Fox actually say what is being reported to have said, and in what context? Now, I come at this topic as a bit of an expert because I was actually at that event last week, the Conservative Way Forward Summer Drinks event. They had two speakers, Liam Fox, obviously the VIP keynote speaker, and also James Cleverly. And I must have blinked and missed this instance because Liam Fox is certainly pro-business, and although I was a Remain campaigner, and I am certainly sceptical of Liam Fox and Boris Johnson, if truth be known. But I have to say, I want to give you some of the quotes and information that Liam Fox said, which is not being reported on, which I think is far more important. So if I just go to my blog post, which I wrote earlier. So what did Fox actually say? So he's quoted as saying British businesses are lazy, he spent too much time on the golf course. However, that's not exactly what he said. So I'm going to paraphrase and quote from memory, because I wasn't a journalist there with a notepad and reporter. I actually do think I recall the person who was doing that there, because there was a guy in the audience who was just constantly shaking his head while he was listening to Liam Fox. And I really think he'd made up his mind about what to write before he'd even started. And I don't see that as proper journalism. I see that as somebody with a left-wing agenda, a wannabe journalist who wants to make a name for himself, misreporting. And really, the news has got to be more balanced than that. So whether you like Liam Fox or whether you don't, it should be about reporting on what actually happened and not what you wish happened. So let's say you spoke for 20 minutes. For 19 and a half minutes at least, he was speaking pro-business. And he was talking about what Britain needs to do post-Brexit. And I can tell you some of the stuff that he said was actually bang on the money. So he highlighted that only 11% of British businesses export. That figure is accurate. He added that business needs to play its part, and we need to view export as not just a nice thing to do, but our duty, which I agree with. We're a free trading nation. We want to create new ways of approaching international trade that can inspire others around the world. So it was all about creating something which doesn't exist at the moment, a new way of doing business, a new way of trading, and for other countries to perhaps look at what Britain is doing and even copying what we're doing. So that was the pretext of the conversation. But one thing that he talked about, which made me go from a very cold, sceptical Liam Fox advocate to somebody who thinks now that maybe he does actually know what he's talking about. And the reason why I changed my mind after going to the event was something he mentioned, which pretty much all politicians ignore, or perhaps they're not aware of, which is that the UK is very successful at attracting inward investment. And what Liam Fox said was, we are not as successful at exporting and investing overseas, which is actually true. And that's something that's been verified by UKTI. I went to an event last year with Lord Francis Maude, who was the then Trade Minister. And he was talking about pretty much the same thing. And the reason why we are successful at inward investment is because we have a team of people, whether it be UKTI or other trade government organisations. We have no Foreign Investment Act, and people are just picking up the phone. Yes, we're interested in investing in UK. It's an inbound activity. And if you think about, if you're a sales guy, or if you work in a company that sells things, consider that as an inbound lead versus an outbound lead. We're very good at picking up the phone, is essentially what Liam Fox is saying. I absolutely agree with it. We're not as successful at investing overseas. So why is the French government so interested in investing in our next power plant, for example? Let's use that as a sticking point. So we are currently selling off British businesses. We are taking short-term job gains, short-term benefits, but long-term, a lot of these companies, whilst they may add value initially, or if they sell globally, perhaps they do add value long-term. Ultimately, a lot of the revenue that's generated over here does get repatriated back to the parent company, and that can be in the form of dividends, it could be in the form of management charges, as we've seen with Amazon and Apple and those sort of big companies and Starbucks. So what Liam is saying is that we need to acknowledge the fact that we are taking short-term gains and we're not looking at the long-term picture. So people are thinking, well, you can create 200 jobs and that takes me up to the next time that I'm elected. And pretty much all politicians are thinking like this, which is, how does it affect me? And there's an old Chinese parable, which is the man who sells radishes pointed the way of a radish. And what we have is a lot of people with their own agendas trying to paint a picture which is different to where it actually is. So Liam Fox is the first person I've seen from Conservative Party to actually acknowledge there is a problem. We are selling off British businesses. We're seeing inward investment without seeing the negatives of inward investment, and we're not exporting and investing overseas in quite the same success we're having bringing money into the country. So for us to survive and prosper in the post-Brexit country, it's not all about inward investment. It's about us going out into the global economy, growing our OEMs, growing our tier one suppliers, inventing things, and really doing something special. So it's not all about what country can come over here and give us all of your money. That's fantasy land, and it was good to see somebody actually not acknowledge that. I've also written a piece about thought leadership. So this is my message to Liam Fox, and I think he got a lot of things right. But what we need is to back the growth of British businesses in the UK that can create wealth. Historically, what we've done via people like the Business Link and support agencies is we've given peppercorn grants for consultancy. I really don't believe that that's the only way and that's the best way to do things. All it does, it creates bureaucracy within the private sector. How much impact does it really have? Are we going to create the next Apple or Google with that approach? Probably not. We'd be doing far better from creating innovative ideas, scaling up R&D incentives, but don't make them overcomplicated, make them accessible. And finally, the UK needs to invest in infrastructure to make innovation possible. So if we take space, for example, and on our timeline in our company office, we have where the company founded, right the way up to 2025, and one of our aspirations, Made in the Midlands, is to help Made in the Midlands members help somebody like Google with their next space project, for example. And we need blue sky thinking. So if we look at post-Brexit era, so for example, the US government spend $18 billion a year to create and service NASA. Let's put that into context. We're spending more than $250 billion a year on welfare. Our net spend to the EU before the pound was hit was comparable to what we spend on NASA. So we can do these projects. We can deliver these big ideas. And what we need to do is start focusing on the things that really make a difference. So let's invest in our companies, let's invest in innovation, and let's boost British businesses. Let's not just look at the overseas billionaire who's just going to come and bail us out, a bit like the approach we've got the football clubs. Let's do it ourselves. Let's work in partnership with overseas companies. Let's create win-win partnerships. So my message to the UK media is let's start having some accurate reporting, because that was completely one-sided towards left-wing agenda, and it didn't actually report on what actually was said. And I think Liam Fox did a good job. Thanks very much.